off. Like we have, we've got 23 people on already, which for anybody who hosts webinars knows that you never really know how many people you're going to get, despite the number of registrations. We had 80 people register, so to have 23 already at the start is great. So I think let's dive in. Got a bit of a convoluted setup, so bear with me just whilst I get this all good, and then hopefully you can see that. Just give me a thumbs up, Laura, if that's coming through the way we need it. Okay,
Perfect.
very good.
Looks good.
All right, awesome. Thank you everybody for joining. And double thanks for everybody who has their webcam on. Like we're definitely not that business where we say you got to have your webcam on, but it's appreciated. It's great to be able to have more of a conversation than a lecture. My name is Dawid Naude, and we've got a special session today. We have a guest speaker with Renata from Maxme. And Renata, I'll get you to introduce yourself in just a moment. And we've got a bit of a different theme today. So for those of you, we're seeing some familiar faces on the line, which is great, and great to see you all again. You will see some of the same content, but there's a whole lot of new content as well, and particularly a different spin on a couple of things today. And today's session is called AI to the Power of Human. It is really all about human and AI and the two lenses of that. So we'll be covering that in two halves today. Before we dive in, the first thing I want to highlight is a couple of three core truths that we experience with AI. So the first is that you're spending most of your day on things that could be automated. Now, some people will look at a statement like that and say, well, what does that mean for our jobs and job loss and all of that? What we're finding is that most of the things that could be automated, they're things that you don't want to be doing anyways. So if you're in sales, you're spending more time documenting the sales call than actually speaking with customers. If you're in a call center, you're spending more time researching the solution than actually advising the person who's calling through it. And so that's one of the core things that we're finding, is that the key things that can be automated are ones that our clients are finding have 60% attrition for roles that are solely focused on that. And so it's really about enabling you to do a lot of other things that you can't today with that extra time. The second is AI gives us a really good opportunity to build new products and services and experiences without having to hire up. And so this presents us with a really fantastic opportunity. We're going to show you lots of demos and examples of this today, of how you can use AI to get new revenue streams, get new experiences, do lots of things that you couldn't do in the past, but you can do now. We're going to highlight that with many different examples. And the third thing is, for most of you, it's it might seem a bit confronting, but it is reality. You're selling a commodity, but you're actually sitting on a mountain of data that you can turn into a differentiator. So if we break that down just a little bit more, for most businesses, there are many others that are doing exactly what you do. And the way you differentiate is in the experience, but also in what you do with your data. So if you're a membership organization, as an example, you know an incredible amount about your industry and those members just by the nature of the newsletters that they're clicking on, the events that they're attending, the conversations that they're having on social channels. If you're able to capture all of that data, you can all of a sudden craft all sorts of new experiences. And we're seeing this in all sorts of unique ways across different customers of capturing kind of trapped data, and we'll be highlighting a couple of those today. Now, one thing I also want to highlight is that AI is extremely powerful, but it's also incredibly average. And what I mean by that is, and today's session, we're not going to be going in any depth into how AI works, but this is probably as close as we're going to get. When you type a sentence into ChatGPT, the boy went to the, for this case, think of ChatGPT as this large language model. All it's doing is it's picking the most likely outcome out of all the possible answers that it could give. And where it gets these possible answers from is all the training material. So in all the training material that's been provided to it, the most probable answer is going to be playground. These other ones, other types of answers as well. but this is the most likely answer it's going to give. So it's giving the highest average. So when I said that AI is very average, it's a great tool to create average content and average experiences, but nobody is out there to create an average experience. You want to be a differentiator, you want to be a leader. And that's where you do need the human element. AI is great at average without the human. And another way to think of this is think of it as baking a cake. So what AI gives you is the base of the cake. So it gives you that initial cake base. It's up to you to add the differentiator, the humor experience, and all of that. This cake, whether this cake sells for $5 or $50, it really comes down to the icing, the decoration, the marketing, everything else like that. So for people who do wonder about what does the future of AI look like for my business, is my whole business at risk? It's just giving you a very good average starting point. So keep that in mind. Particularly think of this. It's just giving you the average. And AI gives you a great opportunity to go get that average up front and then differentiate it. Just a couple of other things as well. So most of our days are filled with drudgery. And we're going to use this word a couple of times, particularly as we highlight a couple of things. We're not spending our time doing the things we really want to be doing. We're doing a lot of copy paste. We're doing a lot of time in Excel. We're doing a lot of time email back and forth. And we're doing a lot of time in meetings. And there's a great thing called the Pareto principle, often called the 80-20 rule, where it shows that 80% of our time is on the least valuable things, and only 20% of the time are the most valuable things. So if we think of that in the context of our jobs, it doesn't really matter what you do. If you look at it really carefully, you're probably spending 80% of your time on drudgery tasks. You're spending it on formatting, back and forth, creating first drafts. If you're in research, you're spending more time formatting your thesis and doing the initial Googling than actually the thinking through it and piecing it together. So what AI does for us, it gives us a huge opportunity to flip this, and where we're spending 80% of our time on the highly valuable things and 20% of the time on those low-level drudgery tasks. But this is why today is a really important session, because there's a couple of things to really lean into here. So let's say we've automated 80% of our jobs. What do we do with our free time? Do we fill it up with all sorts of high value activity? Does that happen automatically? Do we all of a sudden end up selling twice as much, surfacing twice as quickly? What do we do if we have a calendar like this? Now, I'd be surprised if anybody's calendar here looks like this. But what would you do if your whole team all of a sudden had a calendar like this? There's a whole lot of potential value in here. There's a whole lot of potential. But one thing we know for sure is that it's potential value. It isn't realized value. And this is really the crux of today's session, talking about AI plus the human component. We know it with data and our own experience that if you automate 80% of people's jobs and you just leave it open, it ends up filling with non-value activity, low value activity again. There's a rule called Parkinson's law where it states that tasks fill up the time allocated to it. It's amazing how much you get done before a deadline is due, like in those 24 hours. And so AI is really posing that question to us in all sorts of new ways. And today's session is in two parts. It's myself, Dawid and Renata. I run this great company called Pathfindr, which I'll dive more into in a second. And Renata, if you just want to briefly introduce yourself as well, and what Maxme does, and how we've come together today, that'll be great. Oh, just unmute yourself. Sorry, Renata.
I'm on mute, sorry. Thanks, Dawid, and hello all. Thank you so much for joining us today on what is really probably one of the things that Dawid and I are most passionate about, apart from the fact that technology is awesome. We're both technologists. We both understand the power of technology. We've both worked in management consulting. So we've done a lot of advisory with other organizations around how to enable their business processes through the power of tech. But what we've also done, and probably tried to do more, is how do you then also unlock not only what tech can do, but what can your people do? People are our biggest asset of any organisation. They're certainly the biggest cost on our balance sheet, and they have the highest potential to differentiate us from the competitors and you know, really deliver that client value. And I've always been obsessed about people's potential, I guess probably from a young age. I've got 30 years of corporate experience before I started Maxme, and I started Maxme because I got sick and tired of the whinging that happened in the workplace around people didn't have the skills that they needed to be really highly impactful and productive. Now, to me, it was pretty obvious that they didn't have those skills because those skills are not taught. And so I always saw it as my role to teach the people I led and to help them to realise their career aspirations and be the best version of themselves when they are at work and also outside of work, by the way. But it wasn't until I led a performance and learning team for an 800-person call centre under a shared services model that I really saw what could happen on scale. And what I saw was what I inherited being a disengaged workforce and a customer sat that was not where it needed to be. And after 12 months of, you know, kind of revamping what we upskilled people on, we actually turned engagement and customer sat around. And I really saw that firsthand, and I couldn't look away from that anymore. And I decided to start Maxme because my true aspiration is to help people globally to be the best version of themselves, particularly in this age of AI that we are all in right now. So I'm looking forward to sharing what Maxme does with you a bit later.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Renata. Okay, great. So, and just to bring that back, so today is all about, I'm going to show you how to get started with AI. I'm going to light a bit of a spark of how to think about AI. And then what do you do with all that trapped value? Like, how do you fill people's, how do you get people to fill up the calendar themselves with high value activity? Because we know that if you just take away all of this administrative work, it doesn't automatically turn to value adding tasks. It just doesn't. Maybe for a select few, but certainly not for the majority. So just I'm briefly just going to talk about Pathfindr. So we're very excited. Last week we were in the AFR, being awarded as one of Australia's most innovative companies. We're working with lots of fantastic companies from the largest mid-market and as well as not-for-profits. And really what we do is we make AI a reality. So we have an accelerator that we call Spark, where we train teams up on how to use AI. We come up with a strategy and then we make it happen. And the way that we do that is through a structured process, taking you from being aware of what's possible with AI and just kind of playing around all the way to getting 10x return. And we can demonstrate this in so many ways of how we're getting these types of successes. And the way the Spark Accelerator works is we run all sorts of live sessions that you get access to, over 40 of them over a 4-month period, all sorts of tools and resources, industry experts. We dive into everything from customer service, Salesforce Dynamics, Copilot, ChatGPT, everything to equip your team how to use this, as well as help you prioritize AI across different divisions, decide what you should do first, governance, risk assessment, all of those types of things. And the types of gains that we're experiencing are things like 75 to 99% across a whole lot of great brands. And so what's our agenda today? So there's nothing to buy on this call. We're not capturing details or anything like that of selling anything, but we are here to try find people who want to take their company on that journey. And we'd love to have a chat with you. So a couple times throughout, particularly if you have to drop off early, please reach out to Laura, or Laura will be putting links in the chat. We'd love to have a conversation with you to just share with you how you can get going with AI. We'll highlight what tools you could be using. And also, if you want, we can talk through how we can help you as well. But there's a lot of low-level value, low-hanging fruit that you can probably take advantage of straight away without needing any additional help. Okay, great. So let's dive into it. So what can you do with AI? So I want to break the thinking of what you think is possible. So with AI, you can find things, you can create first drafts, you can answer common questions, you can check for simple mistakes, you can format PowerPoints and white papers and create great content, even diagrams, whole process maps you can create. Can automate your accounts payable, refunds, rebates, reconciliation processes. It can complete forms for you. can do assessments. We're going to show a lot of that today. It can create quotes for you, can summarize meetings, calls, documents, do a lot of your Googling and research for you, personalized content, tender responses, data processing and formatting. It can even do a lot of your outbound outreach, contacting potential customers for you or potential partners. Those that do respond or contact you, it can enrich that automatically very, very well. It can create first drafts of great marketing material, it can translate things, proofread, rewrite them, create great multimedia content. And when it comes to data, reports and dashboards, massaging that data, logging things into the CRM for you, understanding your customer or member calls. Imagine getting the last 7 years worth of call data and just immediately seeing what everybody's been discussing. Can predict demand, predict attrition, and create briefings. So everything that I've just mentioned there is all very real. It's things that we're busy with our customers with right now, and we have tons of case studies that that can really inspire you to take that leap. And another way to think of it is AI can either substitute or it can complement not people but tasks. So if your job is solely comprised of something that AI can substitute, 100%, you might have a great opportunity there to repurpose that role. Or in some cases, maybe you only compete on price and you have to actually look at potentially replacing that with something else. But for the most part, there's a great opportunity to complement what you already do. And I'm not going to go through this slide. Just take a screenshot of it if you like. The 3 buckets are simplify, recommend, and extend. So making things easier, recommending, so quality assurance, or doing things that you can't do today, like translating to 230 languages and those types of things. We have a very simple blueprint to go through each role, and you kind of categorize into different little squares your tasks to help find those types of things. But it's not all pretty. There are mistakes, and there's a blooper reel, right, of very public failures, and let's just go through 3 of them. So the first one is with Air Canada. So they had a chatbot that told somebody they're entitled for a refund. A week later, somebody from Air Canada's call center contacted that customer and said they're not entitled to the refund. Even though the chatbot said, I'm AI, I might make mistakes, the guy, Jake Moffat, took them to court, and the court found in favor of Jake Moffat and said, if you have a chatbot giving people formal advice, we're going to hold you to that advice. Using AI is not an easy out. And so really thinking about, if you're using AI, what does it mean if there's a formal decision made on that is something that people do need to think about. Another one, which is pretty comical. This guy, I just think he's a bit of an idiot, to be honest. He was preparing for a legal case and decided to use ChatGPT to prepare. Not only were the case precedents inaccurate, so he was using it to get case precedents, they just simply didn't exist. So he went and cited Jake vs. Smith, 1967, whatever it was. These not only were they inaccurate, they just simply didn't exist. And AI can make things up. Hallucinations is a thing. And that's something that he should have just checked first. Is this actually real? But it also is something to just always keep in mind that, you can get it very badly wrong. And this is a great example of a great idea with terrible execution. So over in New Zealand, Pack and Save, they were very early. So we're talking well over a year ago, probably 18 months ago, which is very early in the AI boom of ChatGPT. They thought, let's come up with a meal bot that allows you to pump in your leftovers, and I'm going to suggest a recipe for you. A great idea. I mean, I didn't disagree. Great idea. Terrible execution, because that didn't put any guardrails on what you could put in. And so you could put in, help me create a recipe with ammonia, bleach, and water, and it would do a little spin here. Aromatic water mix. Are you thirsty? The aromatic water mix is the perfect non-alcoholic beverage to quench your thirst and refresh your senses. It combines the invigorating sense of ammonia, bleach, and water for a truly unique experience. I love it. Gives a little story of the instructions, finished with serve chilled and enjoy the refreshing fragrance. It doesn't tell you, though, that it will kill you. So it is, you do need to apply some testing and guardrails and common sense with these things. You can imagine the the hour the internet knew about this is people started putting in ant poison and jelly and far more dramatic things than that. Yeah, and some of the things that people did. So this isn't unfamiliar territory. We've been here before several times. Even the internet may just be a passing fad as millions give up on it. We had the same with smartphones. There were even Steve Jobs himself. He was skeptical that there was a market for the smartphone. It took him years to get convinced. The internet and the smartphone, both today, we couldn't live without them. And this happens because we overestimate change in the short term and underestimate it in the long term when it comes to technology development. And this is where we're at right now, right? We're expecting technology and AI to be performing here, but the technology is here. So we're thinking big, which is great, but the technology is here. And we think that it's going to be progressing linearly like this, but it's not. We're already starting to accelerate like this. And technology advancements happen in leaps and they accelerate incredibly quickly. But we usually underestimate that acceleration. That is absolutely where we're at with AI at the moment. So we're probably somewhere about here. And I really do think that we're not acknowledging nearly enough where this technology is going to and the impact it's going to make to every single role and every moment of the day. And it's a great opportunity to be one of the leaders because all of our customers, they almost apologize when we start working with them saying, hey, we're really at the start, we're behind. You're not behind because nobody's ahead. If the first time you logged into ChatGPT is today, and then a week from today you're still using it, and you're using it deliberately, not just tinkering around, you're in a very small category of active ongoing users. Most people just simply are using these tools. So you still have an absolute opportunity to be an early mover. So I want to give you 3 mental frameworks of how to think about applying AI within your organization. And then we're going to dive into a whole lot of demos. And then we're going to talk about how to use that freed up capacity and also to arm your people for the future. So this framework, the first thing, think of how do I use AI? Do I use it externally or internally? Externally, stakeholders, customers, members, regulators, prospects, the community, your investors, and internally, your staff. And so think of that first. But the second thing you need to think about is, do I want to use it as everyday AI, so type of the drudgery type of things I do today, or am I looking for something breakthrough? Like writing an email a bit quicker, summarizing a document very easily. None of these are going to move the needle for your organization at all, but they are going to be helpful internally. And so a couple of examples of what we call everyday AI, summarizing a document in Microsoft Copilot, or externally, self-service over a chatbot. That is not going to completely transform your business. It's not going to win new market share, but it is still going to be an important part. So having a bit of that self-service, maybe doing compliance checks, creating grant applications automatically. Great. You might win a couple more grants. Excellent. Or might be a little bit easier, but it's not going to change things for you dramatically. Research and even creating media briefings automatically. But breakthrough comes where you start thinking a bit bigger. So what if our whole organization was completely multilingual? What if when we're speaking to a native Mandarin speaker, we're speaking in Mandarin? What if we did that for 230 different languages across the content we create, but also when we speak to them in the call center? What would that enable us to do locally with smaller populations, but globally, all sorts of new markets? If I'm in financial planning, what does a future experience where somebody could pay a subscription fee and get a virtual financial planner, and then when they need expert advice, they get referred on to us? Or what if I automatically monitor bushfires with drones and satellite imaging? And there's a great, if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, I shared a couple of days ago what they're going to be doing with AI at Bondi Beach this December with using AI to track distressed swimmers, also pick up sharks, pick up rips, that type of thing. This is really breakthrough. And internally, predicting the future, like what are our customers going to expect next year? No touch processing. So not just making processes a bit easier, but no touch at all, as well as analyzing. And the way this feels, so if you focused on these kind of quick wins, externally, your customers and members are going to be saying you're easier to do business with, which is excellent. That's very important. Your staff are going to be saying there's less drudgery in my role. I don't have to do so much copy paste. I don't have to do so much mashing. Like it's just a lot easier to do my job. But as you lean into the top right, if you harness AI externally, you can build new products and services. You can start engaging in entirely new ways, new revenue streams, like really start standing out. And then internally, this is where you're getting your 99% process improvements. So if you take a drudgery removal approach and you say, how could we use, I'm going to use ChatGPT to do my job a little bit better, you're going to get 10, 20% maybe improvement. As soon as you take a process and you say, let's reimagine this process with AI, you're going to get a 99% improvement. And we have so many examples of how that happens. And if you're wanting to justify this to your board, just think of this acronym here, ROAM. So the first is revenue increase. No, that's a no-brainer. Operational excellence. Okay, great, perfect. We get that. The third, mitigating risk. So double checking documents before they go out, turning internal knowledge into an internal chatbot so that when your core subject matter expert leaves, that people can access that knowledge pretty easily. But the final one, I mean, I'll argue that you're not going to get any breakthroughs if you just focus on business cases related to this. The final one is exploring. So what are the things that you can take an experiment with where you're not sure if there's a business there? You go, if we started selling products through some kind of AI advisor, our customer's going to buy that way. If we had an AI bot call every single one of our members to have a 2-minute conversation about what you're expecting from our organization for the next year, will they actually be receptive to that? And so it's really important that true innovation comes from actually exploring. It comes from trial and error. And I think that most leaders are looking here at just a bit of mild operational excellence when let's start looking at these other big levers that we can move here. And if you were wanting to categorize all of your AI opportunities, think of it in three different buckets. So the first is everyday AI, activate everyday AI. So this, you've got to go get a ChatGPT license, get the paid one, get some training. The same with Copilot. If you're on the Salesforce stack, start looking at what Salesforce Einstein can do in these things. This is everyday AI. You've got to just learn to use it and start playing with it. What this is going to enable is your staff are going to be saying, yeah, it's great. It saves me a lot of time. But you're unable to really usually measure that. And it's also usually not that easy to quantify to a CFO. Where you're going to start getting much bigger benefits is where you remodel your entire process. What does a sales process look like enabled with AI? What does a customer support process look with AI? Like, what do we expect them to self-serve, and what role does AI play? This is where you're starting to, and this is a very real example from one that we've done. Our process used to take 9 weeks. Now it takes 3 days. You have to remodel your process. That's the second bucket. It needs to be a lot more deliberate. And the third is we're inventing new products and services. And this is where you might have if you're a membership association, you might have a virtual career advisor that helps show people what CPD course they should take. And this is where you start having things like our virtual career advisor was the #1 reason members cited for membership renewal this year. So I hope that's the theory all done. I hope that those resonated. I'm going to go through a whole lot of demos. I know that we're just at the 1 p.m. hour now in Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you do have to drop, Laura's quickly going to put a link in. If you wanted to have a conversation about anything that you've just seen, just click on that, or just send us a note, and we'll be in touch to have a follow-on chat. So let's dive into about 10, 15 minutes of demos, and then we're going to talk about unlocking some of the how you train people up for this for the future. Okay, so first let's dive into sales and marketing. So tender responses are an absolute nightmare. Any of you who have been involved in a tender response process, you know how much back and forth it is trying to find the right things internally. But imagine if you could just upload the tender document into a tool it's going to automatically extract all of the questions in the tool from the tender. And then you're going to get this screen here. Now, this is we're doing this with a mining customer over in WA, mining services. All these questions have been extracted from the tender, as well as the first answer from our previous responses. So it's gone through all of that, and you're getting your first draft within about half an hour. You're getting your first draft of your tender response done. And if I want to dive into any of this any further, I can simply click on it. Here it gives the answer. It shows where it got the information from. And if I want to tweak that answer, I can either just do it manually, or I can ask the chatbot in here to do it for me. I can ask it to make it a little bit longer. I can make it shorter. I can ask it to use the response from a different tender that I'd previously done. So this is a huge unlock. Anybody involved with tender responses knows just how brutal this is. For those of you in sales and we're trying to find new customers, there's a unique angle you can take now with using personalization, LinkedIn sequences, and a couple of other things to reach out to people. So in this example, this is a very real example. It actually worked on me, and I didn't pick up that it was AI. And we're now a customer of theirs. I've got a permission to share this. So Emma wrote to me on July 12th at 7:23 a.m. Thanks for connecting. My company, Shoestring Services, specializes in high-impact, low-cost marketing services. And here's the personalization. Since we work predominantly with startups and early-stage businesses on tight budgets around the world, we know how to drive immediate and measurable results. We're a startup in an early-stage business and certainly a tight budget. And so this appealed to me. Like, that sentence really appealed to me. I had a quick look at Pathfindr, and I've got a few ideas. So this was sent to me a day after I accepted her connection request. I just accept everybody's. It's just what I do. And that got sent to me a day later. I didn't reply. A week later, or 5 days later, she sent this follow-up. Hey, I'm just following up. As I mentioned, we do this, blah, blah, blah. You can see this was sent at 7:23. 5 days later, the same time, it's sent again. I ended up replying saying, time's not right for us right now. I'll reach out in a couple months, which she did. And then we ended up having a follow-up and a call. So imagine the new ways that you could reach all of your target customers and send them all a personalized message and a personalized follow-up, and then a personalized invitation if they haven't responded to some event that you're putting on for people like them. And even just finding them as well. So scraping with these public data sets to find this information. Now, my sound is not working, which is tragic. For some reason, this is not working when I hit play. But I will talk.
Gayang pagdating sa bagong panahon ng paglikha ng nilalaman gamit ang AI.
I'm actually speaking.
It is working, Dawid.
It is working. Oh, great.
We can hear you. Yep.
AI.
Ang kapangyarihan ng AI sa paglikha ng nilalaman. Maligayang pagdating sa aming video.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't working earlier in all our tests, so I'm glad it is. So that was me speaking Tagalog from the Philippines and another language as well. And you can see that there's a heck of a lot going on there. So my mouth was completely synced. I can't speak either of those languages. It was in the tone of voice of my voice. But the nuance here is, if I ever want to update this, all I have to do is update the text, and then it's going to resync it. And so the way that we're seeing people use this technology is internally and externally. So we're working with a major chicken producer that produces a lot of the chicken in Australia, and they have a lot of English as a second language workers, particularly from Vietnam. And so their health and safety information is now, all the training content is now translated. It also means that when they have new updates, they're able to do a Vietnamese video about it as well. And then externally, imagine getting announcements, marketing updates, those types of things in all sorts of different languages. And all your marketing team has to do is update the text. You know, once the video is recorded once, it's very easy to use in the future. When we're talking about creating content, there's a great example that we did with a fantastic customer over in Western Australia with Real Estate Institute of Western Australia. They're a great long-term customer of ours, and they've given us permission to share this video. They needed to research, they needed to refresh a lot of content from training. And they needed to get it out of old documents that were PDFs. and the original InDesign files couldn't be located, anything like that. And so what happened was we were able to use a combination of ChatGPT and a tool called Gamma to go and extract that information and then recreate all of the content in new, fresh PowerPoint format using Gamma. It's giving great images, a standard, like a standard template. And now an expert trainer can go through this, and all they're doing is making edits. So the first draft is all done automatically, which just makes an incredible difference to taking advantage of this. And you can see it all happening in kind of real time here. So imagine being able to create presentations like this in minutes instead of weeks. I'll show another 2 examples, and then we'll dive into a couple of other into Renata's side of the conversation. So one thing, if you want to do complicated research, one thing I really want you to challenge how you think about AI is AI being able to do research and also artifact creation for you. So this was for a private equity customer. Now there's a lot going on in this video, so I'll talk through it a bit. But if you're a private equity firm and you want to make an investment, there's a lot of research, desktop research, that goes into creating an investment memo. And let's say you wanted to invest in a company called SkyCurrent. They're a robotics company in the US. They do window washing for skyscrapers with robots as well as wind farms. If I wanted to invest in them, the first thing I'd do is I would research the heck out of them on the web. So in this case, we're just getting a tool to do that for us. So it's going through the website. It's downloading everything from SkyCurrent's website. You can see a bit how it's happening here on the left. So it's just busy doing that. The next thing it's doing is it's creating a bit of an understanding and an architecture of SkyCurrent themselves. And what it's going to do next is a full external search, finding everything it can about SkyCurrent, as well as their competitors. So now it's doing the exact same thing on all of their competitor websites. And what ends up happening is it starts extracting all the different references of where it got this information from, starts assessing the information, but now it's also going to start actually creating all of the diagrams automatically that compares all of the financials. So all of that desktop activity has been completely automated. And then it starts creating the actual investment memo itself as well. So it does this automatically. You can see the investment memo being populated. The first time we showed this to this customer, they broke professionalism and dropped a bit of a swear word, saying this would have taken me 50 hours to do this. And this is what's been created automatically. So here's our executive summary slide. Here's a great example of comparing SkyCurrent to its competitors. So it's done all this desktop research, done that automatically. The next thing it's done is figured out who the leadership team is. Is really fantastic. It's put that all there. Now the new version of this actually gets photos of them as well. Just need to redo a video. It does a financial analysis, a whole summary of all the key metrics. Before finally the risks, and then citing the over 300 sources that it got it from. Now in this video, it took 2 minutes. In reality, it takes like 25 minutes and costs about $15 in token usage from OpenAI. But it's a drop in the ocean compared to how long it would have taken them. Now, they're not getting rid of their investment analysts. They're just going to invest 20 times as many deals. And they're going to invest them, they're going to assess them more thoroughly. Now, the last thing I really want to highlight is AI can do a heck of a lot in assessments. It's one of the things I don't think anybody's really talking about. They're talking about generating content, but the way AI can assess things now is absolutely exceptional. So the way, if you ever need to check anything, if you ever need to find anything, AI is a fantastic tool that can do this for you now. And in one example where we're doing this for an industry body where they need to assess if somebody can apply their trade within Australia, they need to do all sorts of checks like passports and passport images and applications and your resume, educational history, that type of thing. Somebody would manually go through everything to see if it matches the criteria and also matches their application. Whereas now we just have a tool that does this for us. So I upload my passport, I upload my educational transcript, I upload all these things, and it immediately does an assessment and goes through each of these things. Is our passport okay? No, it needs review. The passport size photo is great. Education needs review. English language proficiency needs review. Resume, these types of things. And I can click on any one of these and I can see why it needs review. So in this case, the application form is a little bit different to what was actually provided. And at the end, there's a whole summary of what gave the score. And so this type of thing has been incredibly useful. Another example of this would be for assessing a legal document. So assessing a non-disclosure agreement, checking to see if it meets certain rules. I get an assessment afterwards saying these are the rules that check for within the contract. It finds the right part, whether it needs a review or not. And there's one item where it did find an issue. Our minimum liability needs to be $2 million. Theirs is $1 million. And there's discrepancy found. And all I need to do is click on view source. And it's actually going to highlight and show me exactly what the issue is and where it is. So first pass is now done by this. We're not wasting the contract managers and lawyers' time.
So you can see that one.
Oh, sorry, there you go. Oh, sorry, did I have it on myself the whole time?
Yeah, you did. That's okay. We can see it.
Okay, sorry, what a shame. Hope you got to see the assessment one earlier. Maybe you didn't. That's okay. Sorry, this is what happens when you have a convoluted tech setup. Yeah, so in this example here, it was assessing the non-disclosure agreement. It checked to see the rules, showed me that there's the required minimum coverage needs to be 2 million. They said it's $1 million, found the discrepancy. It's gone through this whole contract automatically. I click on view source and it actually highlights where in the contract it found the issue. So you can imagine the amount of savings this unlocks. So you've heard enough about me. I would love to hand it over to Renata now to talk about what do you do with, how do you train people up? Like, let's say you're a contract manager and now 90% of your time is freed up because you're no longer wasting it on low-level activities. What do you do with that free capacity? And how do you think about your role in a new way? So Renata, over to you. You're just on mute.
Thank you so much. And it is truly mind-blowing, the power of technology. And, you know, one thing that Dawid and I were talking a lot about is, well, actually two things. First of all, this is not new. Automation has been around. AI, in fact, has been around for a long time. Decades, actually. But this breakneck speed with which things are changing and evolving and improving is really different. That's the first thing that I would say, you know, having 3 decades plus in tech. And the second thing, of course, is that, you know, as Dawid pointed out with that beautiful and pretty strong metaphor for what do you do with people's time when the diary starts to free up? Because, you know, we both work for a financial services organization and we saw process improvement work on steroids within a particular part of our business that freed up a lot of time for a particular part of that business in a customer-facing part. No more admin was taken care of. And the assumption, of course, was that people would just get on and do more value-add work for the customer and get on and sell more or talk to customers more. But that didn't happen. And we both definitely agreed that part of the challenge, of course, is we assume that people are just going to know what to do next or have the capability and the skills to get on and do something different to what they do every day. But what ends up happening with human change, of course, is that if we don't have the skills or we don't have the confidence or we fear the unknown, instead of going and doing the risky stuff, we actually find stuff to fill that calendar with other busy stuff. And the capacity that we're unlocking in our people tends to dissipate. And one of the ways that I like to talk about it is this change curve. And this is just one way to represent. There's lots of models out there. Bridges has a model as well around early adopters, people who kind of sit in the middle waiting to see, or, you know, kind of first followers, and then the laggards. And interestingly, the curve is split up roughly, you know, you've got about 16% that sit in the innovators and the early adopters. And then you've got about 50% that sit in the late majority and the laggards. So at any point in time in our workforce, which again is our biggest asset, but also our biggest cost, we've got people resisting change significantly. They're going to be part of, or 50% of our workforce are going to be part of the late majority or the laggards. And primarily because they either don't understand or they don't want to understand or they fear the change. And we haven't skilled them to actually be able to lean in and go with confidence, we've got this, we know what we need to do, and we're just going to get on and do it. Innovation, value add, as as Dawid pointed out, it's not just the admin stuff. It's actually how do you reimagine the processes and then move your staff and your organization to innovation. But human transition and reskilling is complex. And that's because tech change in and of itself actually rarely delivers business change. Actually, if it's done badly, it can get in the way. It can actually add further complexity into your business process. It can add further risk into your business process. And so actually you end up being part of the 70% of change that fails or business transformation that fails. And we know this. We know that, with the shifting paradigms around what work is going to be done by robots versus what's going to be done by humans, we know that some of the challenges that we face into are, this experienced versus non-experienced workers. If we want our people to do something different, why do we assume that they've just got the skills to do that by virtue of what they've been doing yesterday or a week ago or a month ago before the change was implemented? We also know that people are, being displaced by the work. As Dawid mentioned, some of the work will be completely taken away. Some of it will be augmented. Straight through processing is definitely the nirvana, the kind of golden goose, but it rarely happens. So there's always some elements of manual intervention, some case management, some exceptions management, whatever that looks like, particularly as we're trying to refine the tech and make it really work for our business. That in itself is an iterative approach. And so our people have to iterate with it. And if we don't give them the confidence and the skills, it's going to end up going quite badly for us as a business. We know that our business models are changing and our workforce are looking to us to really help them to find that confidence and find that Northern Star. And unfortunately, with the organizations, a lot of us are grappling with what is the workforce of the future? What are the skills that they need? And how do we upskill people towards that? So just really quickly, actually, I'd love to engage with you guys, a bit of audience participation, just quickly in the chat or shout it out for those that are happy to talk on these things. We prefer that, of course. What's your approach to human change management when you're implementing large change, transformation, technology, process change within your business? How do you go about the human change management? What's your approach? Hopefully, we've got some approaches coming through. Starting with a why. Thanks, Eugene. Early communication, Tracy. Sometimes it's, you just got to say, if you don't know, just say. We're still in an exploration, iteration phase. This is what we do know. This is what we don't know. And when we actually find out more, because one of the things that's a truism is that humans don't fear change. We're actually evolutionary beings, so we accept that change is inevitable. What we fear is loss and the unknown. And so if we can sort of close the vacuum with whatever we do know and be really honest and authentic, often that helps a lot. What does success look like? Even Belinda, when we don't know what that looks like, is like, well, what do we dream about? What are we inspired by? What do we want to achieve for our customers? Because we know that hearts and minds are one through that emotional connection to what's possible. Acknowledge the concerns. Yeah, Tracy, definitely. Coaching and support, right? We're here for you. Involve the team, get them on board. Sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Because the team sometimes doesn't want to speak up and say, hey, I don't know. I'm not ready for this. But, how do we create the spaces to have those human conversations? Definitely. I love what's coming through. This is fantastic. Change management starts with the beginning of a project management, not the end. Oh, Jake, as someone who's done business transformation, I can't tell you how many conversations I had to fight with stakeholders to try and explain why more than 5% of the project budget has to go towards the change management approach, right? It's like beating your head against the wall, and then we wonder why change actually doesn't succeed. So thank you for being one of those people that just totally gets it. Understanding the motivations, incentives, adopting something new. Yeah, fantastic. What's in it for me, Sean? 100%, which is, I guess, Same sentiment as you, Kate. Okay, thank you very much for that. No, I'm going backwards. Not sure why I'm going backwards. All right, so we know that there's a high probability that change will fail. I'm sure there are people on this call that have seen the statistics. Upward of 70% of business transformation fails to deliver on the business case. And there's a few of the things that have come through in the chat, which sort of contributes to that. And that is one, the lack of that compelling and understood why. It's not enough for a small group of people that hide away in a room somewhere, secret squirrel style, to get the compelling why. Everybody's got to live and breathe it. And they've got to believe in it. It's not just kind of communicating out. It's actually how do you make it authentic and believable where people can see the possibility? Because as soon as, we saw that curve, as soon as I believe there's a place for me and I don't have to fear the unknown or fear the loss that comes with that unknown, I feel a lot more willing to actually open up my mind and my heart towards what's possible and how can I fit into that. Lack of that clear people and reskilling roadmap. I mean, at the end of the day, our people are a fundamental part of success. If we haven't stopped to think, if we've only thought about the process roadmap or the tech roadmap, if we've thought about those, and we haven't thought about our people, then we've fundamentally missed a huge part and thought of our people not from the perspective of what they are today, but what they need to be tomorrow, the next month, the next year. Really importantly, what's that change roadmap for them? Not looking at things holistically. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with change makers in the tech. It's not enough to just plonk change in. The question is always, what is the end state process going to look like with this tech involved? Unless you tell me or we imagine what that is, they know what skills they need, what skills they have, what they don't have. It's almost like it's an afterthought. Oh, about things holistically as we plan and iterate and start to work towards risk mitigation. And then definitely the ability to sustain the change. It's not enough. It's like not a one-trick pony type of change, right? If you're putting your money and your time in it, you want it to be sustainable. So again, just really quickly, another question. What's your approach? No, why am I going backwards? I don't understand what's going on here, Canva. Okay, so really importantly, it's not enough to just have the amazing technology partners in your corner, like, Pathfindr, to really implement this change. You also actually have to mobilize and upskill your people to help you get there. That's the sustainable part of it. Pathfindr will come, they will help you to, do and reimagine amazing things, but actually how do we get our people to be part of the long-term BAU roadmap? And even Sam Altman, arguably where it all started, or the latest iteration started through even he talks about the fact that AI is only going to get you so far. It's the human creativity, the aspects that can never, or certainly not for now, can't be automated, that are going to be the differentiator for your business. As David talked about, the average, and make that cake beautiful. Put the beautiful icing and the decoration, differentiate you, innovate, so that actually you can use that capacity. You can actually take your organization 3-10 times forward. Unfortunately, we are, facing into a gap. This is not made up. This is well researched across the globe. These are the things that are for us in our people. That high emotional intelligence. We know the average in emotional intelligence, and that really productive self-awareness and self-management through lenses like, what are my strengths, what are my derails? Because really importantly, when the automated work or the easy work is automated and that diary is left open, solving complex problems and innovating work not just on our own, but also in groups. And so being able to actually have that high EQ, both in the world of me, when I'm turning up to work and how I'm working and my mindset, my empathy, how I'm attacking things, my creative problem solving skills. And then what do I bring to the team environment when we're collaborating, when we're solving problems together? How am I able to maximize both, in the small group and then overall in the organization? This is such critical transitions that we don't have the skills. We don't have those skills. We are, pretty bad at collaborating. COVID hasn't helped. Hybrid work is also challenging for a lot of people. And so how do we create the kind of skills within the organization? How do we upskill people to get them to be powering on all cylinders, working at the top of their skill set in the new paradigm? Really importantly, this is the coming out of McKinsey, coming out of Deloitte Access Economic Forum, upward of 70% of skills that humans are going to need in this time of AI and great change are in the kind of, I guess, emotional intelligence domain, in the soft skill, human skill arena, upward of 70%. Like, that's huge. And our education pathways are still not getting us there. We're still only upskilling about 10% of our workforce leaders or people in talent programs. 90% are not, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but 90% do not have the basic human skills that they're going to need to be successful. So one more question. Do you have a clear workforce change plan to keep your staff productive, giving them those skill sets that they're going to need in this great time of change where AI is going to be, iteration, AI, more tech, more automation? Do you guys feel like you've got that? Do you have that plan? Do you have that clarity? Do you know what your people are going to need and how you're going to get them there? And if not, what are you looking for? What are the tangible steps that you can take to get that in place? Shout it out, use the chat, pretty please. Where are you at? Do you have what you need? Are you clear on what skills your people need in this time of great change as you're grappling with how to bring this automation and AI, getting rid of the drudgery to unlock the knowledge worker capital? Can I assume with the low engagement that we don't have what we need in place? What have I got here? Leanne, I love it. I've got nothing. We don't have it, which is good. Thank you so much. Yeah, don't have anything in place. I mean, look, you're not the only ones, right? We talk to a lot of clients, and we expect to, open up a conversation around a workforce strategy or a workforce plan. We talk to very, very large clients, global clients who just don't have this in place because of the rate of change in the last year. It's been moving at such breakneck speed that the paradigms of even 12 months ago, they don't work anymore. Having said that, though, the basics are always going to be true. And that is, if we can engage our workforce, if we can give them the skills that they need to be successful, and we make them part of the solution, we empower them, we help them to see that we believe in them, we want to invest in them, and they're part of the future, they're going to show us that loyalty. They're going to get us there. They're going to get on that roadmap with us. It's such a critical part. Okay, thank you. So moving right along, as I said before, 90% of our workforce have little or no formal human skill development. And that's because traditionally these soft skills are seen as the fluffy stuff. Our education pathways focus on technical skill development. But when you talk to people, anyone, I'm happy to talk to anyone on this call, and you say to people, what percentage of your university degree or whatever degree you finished, even your MBA, up to those PhDs, did you use at work your first day, your first week, your first month, your first 6 months? It's always, kind of an adjustment of, not that much actually. But then you speak to people and you say, well, what percentage, of you really needed these skills and didn't have them? It's a very high percentage. And our research sort of found 80% wish that they'd had this upskilling at a kind of timely time in their career development where they could actually use this to help them to be more impactful at work. So we know this. Our research is extensive around this. And so what we've done with Maxme is we've created a really simple method. We call it the Max in Me method. And it's all around how do we help our people upskill quickly to be in a really strong position to get ahead of the curve. And we really focus on 4 different areas. First and foremost, what is this change? Like, just help me understand what is happening around me, why is it happening, and what do I need to be in the context of that change? So we always start with, what is emotional intelligence? Why is that important? Why are top performers in the world highly emotionally intelligent? What is that going to mean for me? What is self-awareness? What is self-management? Like, we really start with the basics, and we do it in the context of the change that's happening around people. We then talk about who am I, right? We start back with the individual. Who am I? What does it look like to be the maximum version of myself? how do you help me to just really get my arms around? And you'd be very, very surprised, or maybe not surprised, just how few people have this language about themselves. You know, we've done a lot of research, and the research in the market says the same thing, and that is people are just not highly self-aware. They think they are, but they're not. And when you start to unlock these very simple things for people, it's humbling, just the light globes that go off and the belief that people start having in themselves, and how they start to think about themselves and their capability and their confidence really differently. So, you know, some of those basics, I know we're probably sitting here thinking, really, that? But yes, that's where we start. And then really importantly, once we get that unlocked, it's really helped prepare me, make it easy for me to be able to make that transition. Don't make me guess. Don't make me go out and do this kind of unbridled, you know, kind of self-paced discovery around what I need. I don't know what I need. Tell me what I need and I'll just go and do that. And that's why I've got the quote on the left-hand side. At Maxme, we've brought all this experience to this curated flow because people really struggle with what they need and in what sequence to get that competence and confidence quickly. They just want to get on and do a great job. And we expect them to know what they need, or, oh, you should just be a self-paced learner, or you should just know that you need to do lifelong learning, or you should just know what you need and in what sequence, or how can you not be a great communicator? Like all of those things that, you know, we sort of assume or expect. People need to be taught. There's no reason why you would teach a technical skill and not a human skill. They're both, and I would argue human skills are more important, but they're both, let's say, as equally important as one another. And then finally, and most importantly from a sustainability point of view, is how do we unlock this capability around keeping at it? This is not a set and forget. Why would we iterate tech and we wouldn't iterate human change? Of course we need to do that. So we need to really set up our people, not only to start to upskill, but also to upskill over a long and sustainable period of time. And because, again, you know, traditionally, we take people off the tools, we put them in a classroom, we give them a workshop around communication. 7 hours later, they're fixed. Goodbye. Good luck with that. Now go back to what you're doing. That's not how human change works, and it's certainly not how proficiency in human skills works. So it's really important that it's sustainable, it's bite-sized, is within the fabric of what they're doing, and they can go and try, they can go and improve, and we build over time. So this is a really, really big and fundamental part of what we do, and the human skill learning and upskilling that needs to happen. And, you know, really fundamentally and importantly, you know, what are the benefits? So what's in it for you? You know, definitely that improved work readiness, really that confidence, that ability to go with the change, to be part of the change, to fail fast, to take risks, to innovate. They're amazing buzzwords, but actually we can only bring that to life and make those business transformation statistics go in the right direction, i.e. successful business transformation, if we help our people with the skills that they need to be successful for us and for themselves. We're able to fully leverage that tech investment as well. Like I said before, if you don't think about the people as well as the tech and process, then ultimately, of course, like it's logical that it's not going to go as far as it could. And very much around this sort of ongoing change, that agility, that time, and let's just invest in them, right? I mean, how do you breed loyalty in people? How do you want them to stay? How do you want them to be the best version of themselves? They've got to feel that you care enough about them for them to give that discretionary effort. And so many people are languishing and sitting around going, why isn't anyone really thinking about me and what I need beyond the tools that I need to do my job, which are often technical skills or, you know, those sorts of kind of policy things or compliance things. How are we investing in the whole human? How are we showing them that their potential and their capacity is critical to our business success? So this human skill upskilling pathway allows you to do that. All right, so that's me, and I just really wanted to give you guys a taste for what we think about, what we're talking to clients about, what we're in market delivering, and, you know, certainly open to any of your questions. I think it's probably, question time now. Dawid, would you agree? We'd love to hear any questions that anyone might have about anything that we've covered.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely time for that. And great. Perfect. And I'll spotlight myself with you. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Renata. It's such an overlooked thing. Change management or anything related to that is usually the first thing that gets cut from the budget. And then they wonder why they and then once you go live, people wonder why they're getting such low adoption. It's and there's
Why is
also
the business
a,
case not delivered?
yeah, and there's also the misunderstanding as well that this type of thing is it's creating training material. Like there's too many. I would say the good leaders don't make that mistake, but certainly others do, where they go, well, people just self-learn the platform when they use it. They think that you're going to create some training material. That's what this does, but it's not. It's change management is such a broader umbrella of enablement, and is such an important thing. It's critical. In fact, without it, you're just destined for failure.
And ways of working change is so much more than the systems that we need them to use and the policies that we need them to stay within. It's a mindset thing. It's a human skill pathway. But we often don't understand that or overlook that or don't have the budget for it or focus or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you so much. So would love to open up for questions. Welcome to just put it in the chat, or if you're brave enough, feel free to come off mute as well, and we could just have a conversation. It's also great to still see such a strong attendance. Still about 90+% of people are still on midday, an hour plus in. So it sounds like you're getting some value out of the session. Laura, has anybody messaged you directly any questions? I know sometimes people might do that or misuse the Zoom function, and then it goes to the organizer.
Yeah, if no one else in the audience wants to jump in, I did get pinged one. A question around how, you've shown a lot of great tools and then how to enable your people as well, Renata. But what would you say to someone who's looking to get started with AI and upskilling their people? Where should they start?
Do you want to go first, Renata?
Yeah, look, from a people perspective, I think it's very much around just create the spaces for people to lean in and start to really understand who they are and ask the questions, create that psychological safety. And I know it gets banded around a lot, and I'm not talking about the policy around psychological safety. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the conditions where you truly are listening to what people are thinking and that they feel safe to ask those questions, to not look dumb, and to just explore together, to be really authentic as leaders and say, we don't know the answers either. This is new to all of us. Like, no one's an expert here, but we want to revolutionize what we do together. And, for people, often they're inspired or motivated by really three things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So if we can start to build that Northern Star in connection with what do people value? What do they want to do? I mean, everyone wants to turn up and do a good job. What does that look like for our organization? How do we start doing this together? I think it's opening that conversation and creating a safe space to do that would be the first place to start.
Yeah, and I would also say so if you think, I'm hoping that by the end of this session today, you'd realize, like, if you think it's about AI, you kind of miss the point. This is actually much more about a new technology that is going to completely change how we look at things. And you have to put it on the leadership agenda. This is not going to happen automatically. You have to be deliberate about it. And if you truly want to be a leader, it's about putting it on the agenda, and asking your leaders what support they need to get this done, and then start exploring from there. So it's the change, but also making sure that it is on the agenda. And there's different ways of doing that with incentives, and also there's a couple of approaches there that help too.
So can I just add one more thing, Dawid, as well? Just that change curve. I think we saw the early adopters, and it was called, there was the words, the chasm. They talk about the chasm being the difference between, the innovators and how the early adopters help you to get to the rest, which is the bulk, the rump of the organization. Is how do you not go to the usual suspects because everyone expects you to go there? How do you open up a conversation and find your true change leaders, the believers, the people who will evangelize, and how do you upskill them? How do you help them to create the momentum and the belief amongst their peers? That's such a powerful way to do it. Like, flatten your structure. Don't make it again like, the leaders are leading this. Actually, how do we do this together? I think that's another real opportunity. Find those early adopters and help them be part of it.
Eugene, awesome. Go for it. You've got your hand up.
Thanks a lot. I want to ask the question in two-folded ways. So to Dawid, if you approach the organization that's already keen, to go into adoption curve, if you would name 3 organizational functions, let's say sales, operations, IT, whatever, finance, which are the most ratio heavy in terms of process and AI, in terms of upskilling? And then the same part of the question to Renata on the human side of things, what are the functions or domains of the, you know, imaginable organization that would be top 3 that you would go to in terms of human skill heavy in a good way? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Great. So the one that people gravitate towards is anything operational. So this is customer service, call center, back office, that type of thing. It's because it's pretty easy. Like there's a high volume. It's usually got a very clear business case, and it's something that happens again and again and again. There's the argument there that it's, yes, it'll make a difference. People underestimate how much work it requires to actually take that potential and translate it into realized value. You have to actually retrain, you have to change your process, etc. So operations, customer support, back office is the starting point, and there's some great quick wins there. If anybody's interested, just book in a meeting and we'll be able to tell you straight away. What requires more work and a mindset shift is in sales. So it's not easy for the tech side is easy, but it's not easy for somebody who's been doing sales a particular way for 30 years to completely reimagine how they should do things. It's very easy for somebody in operations to operate from a new playbook because you have to make that transaction go through so many times a day. So sales and operations are the 2 key ones. Another one internally are internal support as well. So effectively, like an internal chatbot is usually a quick win. Employees are very overwhelmed by the amount of systems they have, the amount of places they need to go to get simple answers to simple questions. Simple question might be, am I allowed to take sick leave whilst I'm on annual leave? Or is bereavement leave applicable for the death of a pet? These are simple questions, but very difficult to get a clear answer, and usually hit somebody in HR, which is already, they can't release any more HR staff. Every HR resource is already operating on such a small amount of headcount. So those are the 3 areas. I'd say sales operations is easy, internal support is easy, sales requires rethinking things a bit.
So I promise I'm not cheating, but certainly customer service, and we run quite a lot of programs and as I said to you, where I really understood the power of scaling this human skill upskilling was when I ran performance and learning for an 800-person call center. We were able to turn things like customer sentiment around and engagement, which led to more share of wallet, which led to first call resolution, which led to all of those things that we all aspire and want and drive for in our call centers, whether it's automated or fully manual. Obviously, with automation, it makes it easier because people are less spending time in wrap up and whatever and spending more time on the phone talking to customers and less stressed out about, getting off the phone because I've got to get through, whatever. So customer service, because that's where the service experience is, and that's where we know it kind of makes or breaks what is said about us and the sentiment from customers. A lot of that happens in that sort of space. But definitely, and as I said to you, salespeople are traditionally thought of as being good at selling, but unfortunately, a lot of salespeople become very wedded to process. And when that process is taken away, they don't actually know how to go out and really truly sell and build relationships and really do those things that we expect that they're going to know how to do because they've got the title of salesperson. So we do quite a lot of reimagining and also human skill upskilling. Again, we think, well, what do you mean? Like, why would you have to teach a salesperson how to communicate or how to build a relationship or how to lead with empathy or how to build rapport? They're a salesperson, but you'd be surprised how few salespeople know how to do that. And so it's really in that space that we have a lot of traction. And again, it's not in a condescending kind of, oh, you should know this way. It's like, we don't assume that anyone knows the basics because we're now time and time again seeing that people don't have the basics. And that's okay because we know that education pathways and investment is not happening with the rump of people. So we love doing the work that we do in those spaces. But I think also, though, again, let's talk about those early adopters. Let's talk about the people in your organization that you want to make the evangelists, that, you know, some of those emerging leaders or some of those people that are new to leadership, not quite, they don't actually know how to lead, how to inspire. You know, the role of a leader is to create more leaders. They don't know how to do that, but they play such a critical role and make or break some of these transitions in this change period. So we spend quite a bit of time in that emerging leadership space, in those people that are really kind of out there, the thought leaders, and they're inspiring and kind of, I guess, role modeling for others. Yeah.
Stuart,
Awesome.
you got your hand
Stuart,
up.
go for it.
Thanks, yeah. Well done to both of you. Great session. Thanks for the information sharing. I think in particular, Renata, you must be pretty excited because I think this is probably AI is probably the biggest change management project in human history. So, and I agree with your comments, David. It's there's so much opportunity there. Question, just can you go into a little bit more detail, Renata? What's a program plan look like for you? So when you're executing change, what are the key work activities, phases that you go through? How do you approach it, and how do you work with David's team as well as you go through that?
Yes. Thanks so much. And we piggyback off each other. So I'll start with the second part first, which is, you know, what's really critical for any client that we work for is that we work in unison, because we are, you know, we're people that come from the world of change. So you would expect us to come with our best game to you. You don't want us to bring any complexity. You want us to bring cohesion to what you're trying to achieve with your business. So that's really important, because we understand the end-to-end and how tech and process and people work, that whole target operating model, operational design. That's how we work. We work in the background. We've got our methods. We have interlock with one another, and we sort of understand where we bring each other in. So that's really important, Stuart. I thank you for asking that question, because often that cohesion doesn't happen, and that's really important. We take that very seriously together. And the first question is, you know, we always start with the same thing with any new organization or any new group that we work with. We bring it back to basics, which is, what does success look like for any human? And that is definitely through this layer of emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? You'd be surprised how many workshops we open with, can you give us a 1-sentence to 2-sentence definition of what is emotional intelligence? And people can't name it. Like, it's EQ, we've all heard it, EI, EQ, oh, I want to be more emotionally intelligent. People have no idea what that actually means. And so we start with the basics. We unlock self-awareness basics as well, which we know is the bedrock of emotional intelligence. And we really start with unlocking people's strengths and derailers. Like, we really like to start with, what can I control? That's me. And what does it look like to turn up the best version of myself, emotionally controlled, fully self-aware, and self-managing myself. So we always start there. That's a kind of fundamental part of where we start. And that it helps people feel the confidence that actually can start with the basics. It's okay not to know this stuff, and then we build from there. And then, really importantly, Stuart, we go wherever the organization wants us to go, because there's no one, we definitely is not, you know, we know leadership can't be a one-size-fits-all. We know change can't be a one-size-fits-all. So we very importantly like to work with the fundamentals of what the organization wants to achieve, where they're headed, some of the pain points with their people. And we just basically craft quite quickly, very flexibly, programs that start to deliver some of these change, these conversations, and the role plays, the really kind of on the tools type of learning that we do with organizations. But again, very tailored to the organization, but quickly.
Great. I'll quickly grab these ones that have come through on the chat. So Sam asked, how do you start implementing AI use cases in organizations that's big on PII, so personally identifiable information, and nervous about using sensitive data for LLM models? So Sam, it is one of the most common questions and concerns. Today, because we had so much to pack into, we didn't go into that. But there is a framework. You have trade-off choices. So the short answer to that is, there's absolutely a way to get it 99.9% secure. So as secure as your Microsoft Teams environment is, or your Outlook email is, hosted in the same place. using the same controls, etc. The problem that organizations have at the moment is they haven't given their staff a tool, and they've told them you're allowed to use AI tools, just don't put sensitive information in it. And what's happened is people have created their own personal ChatGPT accounts, and they are putting sensitive information in there. And so that's the biggest mistake that we're seeing is organizations are concerned, but they're not doing anything about it. And so they think that what they're doing about it is giving an instruction to not put sensitive information in. You are allowed to use tools because they want to be seen as forward thinking. And then you have this, we used to talk about shadow IT, now we talk about shadow AI. And that's absolutely what's happening. And whenever I talk about this to a leadership team, I'll always say the sentence, I bet some of you have put sensitive information into ChatGPT, and I'll always get a head nod and a laugh. They know they've used it and they've put things that they shouldn't in there. So the short answer there is you have so many choices, ranging from hosting it yourself through to another managed platform. Yeah, it's not a reason to stop. There are simple answers to this. And the next one from Sean, top marketing related use cases beyond content creation. So personalization is one of them. So there's a lot of, this is an interesting one. I don't even know if it falls into marketing, but a lot of companies have created a lot of great content and published them on their website. They've had great webinars. They've got good videos. They've got good white papers and blog posts and newsletters. But it's very hard for their prospects, customers, and members to find this stuff. At best, you can use the search function on the website and then get really terrible results, like absolutely terrible, because it just uses keyword matching. So one use case is there's one where we're working with a bank at the moment where when you hit the website, you just say, you describe what type of business you are and what you're trying to achieve. So I'm a first-time founder. I want to get on top of my tax obligations. And then it recommends all the content from the website, even videos and all sorts of snippets like that, which first of all summarizes it as a generative answer and then also highlights all the types of content that you can use. That same concept when you're sending outbound messages is a really big one. And then there's on the research as well. So actually taking things, like we've got one customer where there's a big they're an industry body, and there's a Facebook group that somebody else has created that actually has like 500 to 1,000 people that discuss in there. And so the ability to actually take the full transcript of that conversation and see how the conversation is changing for the industry and market accordingly is a creative way to do research. So those are a couple of others. Great. We've got another 4 minutes. I think we've filled the time really well. I'd love to hear from somebody else, or if you don't have a question, if you could do us a big favor and just put in the chat, what's one idea that's kind of popped into your head through today? Like, where would you start if you've seen something today? Maybe people are overwhelmed with the opportunity and they're just struggling to decide. It makes a big
So
difference
much
for us
to
to know
take
how to
in.
tailor the content. Document management. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Chatbot for internal. That's because it's death by a thousand
high
cuts.
potential.
Yeah, it's definitely death by a thousand cuts, because even though I called it everyday AI and drudgery removal, when your job is 90% drudgery from 1,000 different things, it's not actually one thing. It's not finding a document that's causing you angst. It's everything. It's everything. I need to submit a leave request. I don't know how to do that. I need to update member information in the system. How do I do that? There's 12 different systems. So yeah. Perfect. Staff training. Yeah. Copilot, Tracy, with Copilot, do that very deliberately. Copilot is, parts of Copilot are a good product. A lot of it is really, really bad, like really bad, and shouldn't have been released. And so with the change approach with Copilot, lean into that, going, these are the 3 areas of the product that we recommend at the moment. These 3, we can't disable them. They're just there. They're part of the product. Don't touch those yet, because you're going to get very bad results, because somebody will use it for the first time, get a terrible result, and then stop using it altogether. And now what you face with then is somebody like a CFO saying, we spent all this money on Copilot and I'm hearing it's not great. Like, why did we do this? It's much better to get on the front foot of that.
How do I find out which areas are bad?
Actually, there's no, probably me, to be honest.
I am going to book a little 30-minute session with you anyway, so maybe we can have that discussion then.
We'll chat there. Yeah, we know, like, we've so we use Copilot, and we did a rollout early on, and there were a lot of so we learned not only the things that worked well and didn't, but also the things that look like they work well but don't. So the things that demo really well, but when you use it in the wild, so it might look great in a training session, and very good for Microsoft with selling licenses, demos very, very impressively. But long term, there are problems. Now, one of the big, I don't want this to come across like I'm not a Microsoft, I'm not a Copilot supporter. I 100% am. Like, it's eventually we'll all be using Copilot all the time. It's just right now it's early for the product, and there are some things it does exceptionally well, but there are others where it's really disappointing.
Okay.
And they had to do catch up, right? I mean, you know,
exactly.
Sam Altman, what those guys did, those guys were compelled to have to do catch up, right? So, yeah.
Well, I think that's why we went down that path, is because it is a paid closed, in consideration of that protection of information. It's not open to the greater world.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. Love it. Perfect. I love all the feedback at the end. Thank you. You actually, those of you who have run webinars before, you don't really know, to be honest. Like, it's hard. That's why we put the videos on, so at least there's some kind of interaction. And like, it's hard. And I try to limit my content. I failed, as always. But I think we still managed to get a lot of good, at least our key thoughts across. So thank you very much. And looking forward to engaging with you all on LinkedIn. Connect with us both. And yeah, it'll be great to chat to you all again in the future.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.